Hello everybody, this is the first episode of my new series, which is news! It's something that I was working on for a while, trying to think of a format, so this is actually the first test run of this, so give me your feedback. Anyway, first story. Earlier this week, Ubisoft pulled all of its new titles, including Far Cry 4 and Assassin's Creed Unity, off of Steam. This is just weeks before their release, and this is a move to try and get players onto UPlay, where the games will be exclusively available on that service. One can just expect that Ubisoft wants to not have to cut in Valve anymore on their PC market, which is fine, but if you played any games via multiplayer through UPlay, which you've had to use with Steam anyway, you'll know that playing anything in multiplayer is very, very funky. It doesn't ever work really as intended. When you get into a game, it's pretty fine, but when you're trying to actually get into games with friends and managing your friends list and all that's general usability that you get through Steam friends lists and inviting players to games and stuff, it just didn't work very well. Assassin's Creed Brotherhood is a multiplayer game I played a lot, and it was damn near impossible to get into a game with friends, so that's what makes me worried. To be fair, we weren't going to get around that anyway, just because it was on Steam, because they were going to use their own multiplayer servers anyway. But the problem is, if their servers are that funky for just general multiplayer, how is it going to be on release day when you're going to download the games? Is it going to be a launch day Diablo 3 situation with trying to download these games? It's really hard to tell at the moment if their servers are bulky enough. Generally, from how multiplayer works with Ubisoft's Uplay, I am skeptical. Today at BlizzCon, Blizzard announced their first new IP in over a decade. Finally a game coming from Blizzard that is not Diablo, Warcraft, or Starcraft. The game is called Overwatch. It is a take on what seems to be the Team Fortress 2 style of multiplayer. Features a bunch of different classes, many classes, but it seems to be the same general kind of gameplay from what we've seen in the trailer, in the preview trailer anyway. There's no word on the business end of it. What's weird is that there's no official word yet if the game's going to be free to play or not. There's no press release stating that, so it's hard to tell if they're going directly for that free-to-play market and sell hats a lot like Valve does, or if they're going for a expansion-based buy it once and then buy the expansion, DLC kind of thing. We just don't know. The game was announced today, so hopefully in the next coming days we'll figure that out. But for right now, I don't know, it seems pretty cool. It looks like a Pixar game. All the characters look very cartoony. Blizzard loves that cartoony-ish art, like less than realistic art style. Some people even are speculating that the classes in this game are characters taken from Project Titan, which was canceled earlier this year. So I don't know if that's true. I don't know anything about that. All I know is that it's a shooter, and shooters are cool. There's not enough of them, so I welcome it. The thing is, it is a lot like TF2, so it's hard to tell if people who play that game are going to switch over or not. It's also hard to tell what their multiplayer situation is going to be like, because if you're familiar with Battle.net, it's not just like start a server and play a game, it's start a private server via Battle.net and then invite your friends every time. It's hard to know if it's going to be like a rolling over continuous server situation, kind of like TF2 does it, which is the preferred way to do it for PC gamers anyway. Because this is probably going to be on consoles, it might not feature that, which would be kind of a bummer. But anyway, we have to wait for all that plethora of details coming in the future. Elite Dangerous finally got its own release date. It is December 16th of this year, which is a lot earlier than a lot of people were expecting. It is a game that bolsters that you can fly spacecraft, dogfight in space. It's a lot, mine asteroids, do industry. It's a sandbox space game, a lot like EVE Online, except it has more controls, kind of like X-Wing, kind of like TIE Fighter, where you're actually first-person shooting, flying around, controlling things in your ship to get one up on your enemy. There are several different ship types, and it just looks like a pretty cool thing. I am not in the beta. There are plenty of people in the beta. There's lots of footage on YouTube of the game. It's going to have Oculus Rift support, so it's really hard to tell if that's going to give someone an unfair advantage or not. It's really difficult to know until people actually get in multiplayer and start really tearing the game apart and figuring out all the ins and outs of it. But it's got a release date, which is awesome. And finally, more news from Blizzard at BlizzCon. Starcraft II Legacy of the Void has a new trailer. It is the third installment of the Starcraft II trilogy, the first being the Terran campaign, the second being the Zerg campaign, and the third being the Protoss. The trailer's awfully pretty, just like all Blizzard trailers are, but it really doesn't show any gameplay. There's some video footage floating around of the new units, and all the other things that may be coming to Starcraft 2 in the future. It is really hard to tell what exactly is going to be included in the multiplayer game, which hopefully will be units that will stop the stale metagame of the Starcraft 2 multiplayer scene at the moment, where it's basically rock, paper, scissors, and there's not a whole lot going on right now, which makes it kind of boring to watch. So hopefully they'll be adding units to all the races and spicing things up a little bit. The expansion is set to release sometime in 2015, but knowing Blizzard, wouldn't hold your breath. Could be later than that, but I'm excited because I do enjoy that game. But anyway, that's going to do it for news. Thank you very much for watching. If you have any comments or suggestions on how I should do this in the future, let me know. I do want to include more like graphical stuff and like all sorts of things to make it, you know, better to watch. Let me know if this is something you want me to continue doing and if it's something you're interested in seeing. Thanks again. See you next time.